All right, so one of the most common questions I get about getting a job in corporate where you can make like 80K, 90K, 100K, sometimes even more than that remotely is like, how do you write a resume and what do you put on the resume if you have no experience? So I'm just going to talk about what I did a couple years ago to fill out my resume and stack it so that I could get high five and even six-figure jobs working remotely and then stacking them at the same time to make pretty good chunk of change. To give you context, I have no college degree. I went to Ocean County College for like a semester and then dropped out because I thought it was bullshit and did some cool stuff and ended up in the corporate world. So I'm going to show you how I did that. I'm just going to talk about it. If you want me to go into a deep dive and go through my resume and all that stuff, I can do that. But this video is just going to be me talking. So, what did I do to actually fill out my resume? So, since I had gone out of college, I dropped out of college, I basically just started working like these random jobs. Like I had a job as like a salesman in Target where I would sell phones. I also had a job stacking shelves at Trader Joe's. And these jobs were not things I really put on my resume. I think I put the salesman job at one point when I really had no experience at all, or I just needed to fill out my resume as much as possible. But yeah, these jobs don't really help you get like a remote job in corporate. Ideally, you want to be modeling what the positions are already in corporate and relating them to your life. So what do I mean by that? Well, I applied for a ton of different jobs, like a ton. And what I found was that copywriting was like my niche really, but before that, I would actually get jobs as like an email marketing manager or just a marketing manager in general. And most people that just come out of college or just in general don't really know how to do this stuff. But I learned how to do this for my own business. I actually started a few different businesses and they weren't profitable really. I mean, one of them was like, I made a couple $1,000s in a year from like really, really not much money at all. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was able to use the experiences that I got from these businesses or side projects and just tailor a resume around them. So my first mistake was I would put founder on these businesses on my resume. And when you're applying to a company, the last thing they want to see is that you're a founder. They don't want to think that you're overqualified for the position. And chances are, if you've done some cool shit, like started your own business, even if it was just for a couple months, you made a couple $100, you probably are overqualified for a lot of positions in corporate. But that's because a lot of the positions in corporate are not looking for a result from you, they're looking for a skill set. And so a resume is basically just a marketing piece of paper that shows your skill set. So if you can tailor all of the work you've already done to match what the job description is that you're applying for, you could pretty much just get any job as long as you match the job description and you know what you're talking about, right? Like that also matters. So this goes back to the question, how on earth do you get a job without real job experience? Well, I'll be very, very candid with you. You do have to do some cool shit, or you do have to have some sort of body of work that you can showcase. So let's say you're applying to be a copywriter the way I was, or let's say you're applying to be a designer or something creative. You can't just apply to these jobs without a body of work. Like you need a portfolio, you need a website. I can show you how to do all that stuff in another video. But you need this stuff to be on your portfolio, on your website, on your LinkedIn, so that people know that you actually do the work. Like, would you ever hire a surgeon that said, hey, this is my first day on the job, but I promise you this will be the best surgery you've ever had? You'd probably be a little skeptical. It's the same thing here. So this goes back to the question, like, how did I do this? I did it a few different ways. So a few of the first positions I applied for were just like marketing specialist positions. I used all the results I got from my first couple of businesses. I just put them on my resume. So one thing that I did was I would throw parties at a fraternity I lived at, And to give you context, I wasn't even going to the college. This was like a UCLA fraternity. I didn't even go to the college there. I just needed a place to stay. This fraternity let me in. And I used 2 different names. I used the name of the business I started that was throwing events at this fraternity, and I used the fraternity on my resume. So what do I mean by this? What do I mean by this? About once every 2 weeks or once a week or however often it was, we would throw a party, and we'd use basically it was me and my friend that we'd basically do all this stuff with. Shout out to Welly if he's watching this. We would go flyer at UCLA, okay? So this is experience right off the bat. How is it experience? Well, we would print out flyers, we would make them, print them, and then flyer them at UCLA. Well, how could I put this on a resume? I would literally put the amount of flyers we would pass out, which was like hundreds and hundreds. I think each party we did at least 500 flyers. So I would put, okay, we passed out 500 flyers at UCLA to spread awareness about events. Okay, that was under my own events company. Then what did those flyers do? Well, eventually we were able to, for these events, we were able to get 5,000 phone numbers that we could text at the UCLA area to throw parties. Okay, put that as a stat on my resume. Acquired 5,000 new customers in 6 months, 5,000 new leads in 6 months to generate, we made about like 20 to 30, I don't remember the exact number, I think it was around $30,000, to generate $30,000 in revenue. Okay, I put that on the resume. What else did we do? We hired staff. Okay, managed and oversaw 25 different security personnel and vendors to ensure event safety and coordination, something like that, right? Put that on the resume. Coordinated and responsible for 7 different parties in 2 months, 7 different events in 2 months, right? This is called using the XYZ method, where it's you get a result through a certain medium yielding a certain, you get a result through a certain medium using a certain tool kind of thing. So I did this through Y, or I did X through Y yielding Z, kind of something like that. This is just the format for, you can actually Google, this is like I think Google coined this XYZ method. You can Google that. So that was like one thing, right? Then I mentioned that I put some of my experience under the fraternity, right? So I looked at this fraternity. What else did I do? These parties also yielded new membership for the brothers that were at this fraternity. Now, I put that under the fraternity, right? Marketing consultant. Yielded 200% increase in 1 quarter using event flyer marketing on UCLA campus. Generated 1,000 leads because we got like 1,000 guy phone numbers or something like that. 1,000 leads in 2 weeks using flyer marketing at UCLA. These are just metrics. What if you don't have these metrics? What if you didn't throw parties? What if you didn't do anything like this, right? You could still do something. What are some of the things that you've done in your life? And if you haven't done anything, it's time for you to do stuff for free. There's work on Craigslist. There's free stuff that you can do to get someone else a result that they can vouch for you for. Okay, what work do I do? Well, what are you interested in? The reason I would do parties is because I was DJing a lot, and then COVID happened. And then after COVID, we're like, well, what do we do? Like, no one's here, no one's on campus, we need to do something, so we decided to throw some parties. Like, it's all just problem solving. Like, what problems are you currently having right now? How are you fixing them? Put that on your resume. Another thing I did was I built like a music production website that maybe it made like 10 grand. It really didn't make much money at all. And that was revenue, so profit. I don't even think it made $1,000 for profit. What I did was though, I put exactly the tools and people I hired and the contracting that I did to make this website. And it took me like 1.5 years before I closed it down, or 2 years before I closed it down. But I essentially said, generated $10,000 using Facebook ads and Instagram ads. Generated 2,500 leads using Instagram ads funneled into an email pipeline. Stuff like this. If there is nothing that comes to your mind, there's a few things you can do. A, get like a really, really easy to do job on Craigslist. There's like internships that you can do. There's just free stuff. B, create something of your own and showcase it. You can, this is like the hard part, right? This is the part that you have to figure out. Do something that is actually cool. Something that you can actually show people. Something that you're proud of. And do it again and again and again. It took me a couple years to actually do enough things that I could actually put on my resume. And I didn't do any of this stuff for the sake of putting it on my resume. I did it because it's just stuff I wanted to do. And then after I had done all this stuff, I was like, all right, I want to make some money. What do I do? Let me get a job. I put all my experience on my resume and I started applying to jobs. And within a couple months, I got my first like real job. And that was like a really life-changing day. I actually got 2 offers in the same day and I took them both. I got a $75K offer as a marketing specialist. And then I actually quit that job 4 days later, but that's another story. And then I also got an $85K job I was supposed to get a 10% bonus every year, but they actually cut that while I started working there, which I was pissed about. But anyway, those are the 2 offers I got. So what does that equal to? Like 150K? Something like that? 160K? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I had no college degree. And so a lot of people are gonna be like, well, how do you apply to jobs without a college degree? How do you get that? How do you apply for jobs without a college degree? Well, there's a few hacks. A, your resume can just be so good. I'm not saying mine is, but your resume can be so good that they overlook the fact that you don't have a degree. B, you can lie about it, which I've done before. I've lied about it and it's bitten me in the ass. And C, you can also just like put that you have a bachelor's in your resume and just put it in white text. And this way, when it goes through like an applicant tracking system, it'll pull up the fact that you have a bachelor's degree, but the person reading the resume won't see it. And the applicant tracking system it's an ATS, that's the abbreviation. This is just what recruiters use to filter out resumes because they get hundreds and hundreds every day. And so some of them I'd imagine are more advanced these days where they can actually pick up if you have white text, but that's a hack I've used in the past. What else can you do to build your resume? You could low-key, I'm sure if you're watching this, probably had a job before. You've probably had a job before. You could tailor those positions. I've actually done this with one of my friends. You can tailor all those positions to curate your resume for the position you're actually looking for. The key here though is you have to be very specific. If you can't have 10 different positions on your resume. They all have to be the same or they all have to be somewhat related. For example, pretty much every position on my resume right now is related to copywriting. I think I have one thing on there that says marketing consultant, and that's to just give a broader background that I know marketing, because copywriting and marketing are very tied together. However, there was a point where I was applying to CMO roles, chief marketing officer roles. And I did this maybe like a handful of times. But what I did was I tailored all my positions to be chief marketing officer. And that was actually really easy to do because most of the positions I had were just businesses I owned, and I was able to just position them. Instead of me saying I was the founder, I was the chief marketing officer. At the end of the day, what's the difference? You can position yourself any way you see fit. It really doesn't matter. Now you can't really do that, and you probably wouldn't be applying to CEO, CMO, CFO positions anyway if you're just starting out, but you can't really do that if you just have regular jobs at like a grocery store or something. It's very hard to do that. So what do? Well, Let's say you're just working at Trader Joe's. Let's say that's where I worked. Let's say you're working at Target, another place I worked. You can just say, hey, I dealt with XYZ amount of customers per day. I dealt with X customers per day. Sold this amount of products per day, and responsible for managing this amount of people per day. Now, some of that might be a lie on your resume, so just make it the truth and make it fit the position you're going for. A lot of times it's actually really easy to position yourself as a manager in corporate just by using your experience that you have dealing with people in a regular retail job. Most people don't start off their first job in corporate. Most of the time they have a retail job, working at a gas station, working at McDonald's, working at Burger King. I worked at Burger King, I worked at Jersey Mike's. I worked at a lot of these like minimum wage jobs. You can tailor your resume around those jobs as well. The biggest thing to do to actually make your resume killer without getting a job in corporate first is to just do really cool stuff. Throw a party and see how many people come. Even if it's just 100, even if it's just 20 people. The way you market that party will be able to be used on your resume. Throw an event. I think that's the most fun way to do it. Build a business. I really sell a few articles of clothing. Build a website. Learn a skill. Your whole resume is about learning. Your whole resume is about showcasing that you can do a skill. It's not showcasing that you can necessarily achieve a result. It's showcasing that you have a skill set. And so the results should speak for themselves on the resume. Yeah. You don't need a college degree. Yeah, I mean, I can go through this more in depth on another video, but just wanted to make this as it was top of mind. Let me know what else you want to see from me, and I'll talk to you soon.
The